And while the US has perhaps announced new sanctions on Russia in a span of 50 days if a deal is not reached, a Kyiv Post report says that Western components are still fueling Russian airstrikes. An investigation by the International Partnership for Human Rights, or IPHR, with the help of the Ukrainian Independent Anti-Corruption Commission and published on Kyiv Post found that Russian fighter jets shot down over Ukraine were found to contain hundreds of foreign electronic parts. All this despite Western sanctions. Researchers examined the wreckage of downed Su-34 fighter bombers and Su-35's air superiority jets. They traced 1,115 out of 1,119 electronic components to foreign companies. The question being, where are these parts from? Well, they found that the parts came from 141 companies across the world, mostly from the United States, and others came from Germany, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea and Switzerland. Major manufacturers include Analog Devices, Texas Instruments, Intel and Murata. And don't be mistaken, these tiny parts do big things. They power targeting systems, communications, navigation and guidance on Russia's most advanced jets. Well, I am talking about integrated circuits, microcontrollers, field programmable gate arrays, and they are all extremely important to Russian airstrikes on Ukraine. Which brings us to the main question: how perhaps are they reaching Russia, and all this despite the sanctions imposed by the West? Well, according to this very report, Moscow is using shell companies as well as complex trade routes to access them through China, Hong Kong, Turkey, UAE and even some European nations. In 2023 alone, over 180,000 shipments of microelectronic items reportedly reached Russia. They were worth more than $800 million. Well, many shipments were valued under $10,000 in a bid to avoid detection. Some Russian companies reportedly even advertised their expertise in bypassing these sanctions. Now, this report accuses the West of perhaps having failed to enforce their controls effectively. A line from the report says, and I'm quoting here, "In the third year of Russia's full-scale war on Ukraine, Western policymakers have largely failed to disrupt the Russian military's supply chains." And here's the bigger picture. Despite Western sanctions, Russia's war machine is still running very smoothly. New data shows that in 2023 alone, Russia imported nearly $22 billion in critical components. That includes $9 billion worth of battlefield items. These are parts, and perhaps these components are reaching Russia through third countries like China, Turkey, the UAE, and even some European nations. One shocking figure: almost 98% of restricted electronics are routed through these intermediaries, and shell companies hide the real buys as well. Shipments are then broken down into small packages in a bid to avoid any kind of detection. And as a result, Russian missile and drone manufacturing, it has now surpassed pre-war levels. And all this, just to remind you, despite Western sanctions on Russia, despite the sweeping measures imposed by the West on Russia that were meant to curb Russia's war machine. What seemingly emerges from all of this is that Western sanctions on Russia are just an eyewash. 3 years on, Russia's war machine is still running and Ukrainian sites keep burning. If the world truly wants this war to come to an end, it's time to stop pretending sanctions are enough. It's time to get both the sides on the table.